In our lesson cycle, we have three main components: an activate and build background knowledge, inquiry-based text analysis, and synthesis. We're going to look a lot closer at these lesson cycles, or these lesson components, for a couple of reasons. One, we want to continue to expand and grow our understanding about why the lessons are planned the way they are and the best ways to implement. And we also want to look at some of the research that informs the decisions that go into our curriculum. So we'll start with the activating and building background knowledge part of our lesson. And this is most lessons the very beginning. So let's start with the what on what is the purpose. This is a period in class where we refresh information that has already been learned. The lesson is introduced to kids, so this is the time when they'll learn what the compelling question is for the day. And it's also a time to directly teach students essential background knowledge that will help them better understand the text. In a building background lesson, kids are taking notes in order to learn the facts, whereas in a document-based lesson, the purpose of the notes is to just tee them up for the reading. The notes are never the main event. They're just teeing kids up or giving them essential information so that they can get into the document analysis. A little bit more about the purpose. It's also a time to make sure that students have relevant background information. And so let's get into the why. What is some of the research that informs this? Well, with information processing theory, we know that repeated exposures to information can improve long-term memory retention of information. And so the more booster events you give to a student, the better and longer they're going to learn information. So that's why we see booster events in the Do Now and in the Historian Hustle. Another reason is that we know that prior knowledge of a subject has greater impact on reading retention than reading ability. And so this is from a study on students. They had high readers and low readers, and students with high background knowledge on baseball and students with low background knowledge on baseball. What they found is students with low ability but high prior knowledge actually did better than students with high reading ability but low baseball prior knowledge. This shows the significance of prior knowledge in students' ability to read and understand. And then the final reason for why we have the activate and build background knowledge is that teaching factual and ensuring that kids have a factual base help them think conceptually. So before students can think conceptually, they have to have a solid fact base to use as tools. And now let's get into the how of our activate and build background knowledge portion of our lesson. How do we do this? One, in the Do Now, we spiral content and skills practice. In the Historian Hustle, we also spiral previously learned vocabulary. The hook is where we introduce that compelling question and we help connect the past to present current events. And then finally, the notes are direct instruction of relevant background information. These facts are important to understand, but they're really just the beginning. The meatier part of our lesson, so we have to have the facts, but again, it's just the beginning. Inquiry-based text analysis is going to be the meat and majority of your time in a lesson. So let's begin with the what on what is the purpose. This is a period in class where students deepen their understanding of the compelling question by reading a variety of source types. It's also the opportunity for students to observe an explicit model of historical reading or thinking skills and to practice on their own. So why do we have the inquiry-based document analysis? And we're going to look at a couple of quotes from research on the importance of document analysis in social studies. One reason we have it is that it supports forming opinion. Monty Sano from the Stanford History Education Group said, giving students opportunities to do history can expand their view of history and prime them for learning how to communicate arguments in writing. This is tied to understanding history as an interpretive discipline that is grounded in the analysis of evidence. If students see history as a single story of the past, or if students regard history as a series of factual details that aren't disputed, then there's little room for argument. So history is incredibly important in showing students that the written word doesn't always have to be the authority on a subject. they can make evidence-based opinions, they can argue with the evidence from those opinions, and they can raise their voice. That's incredibly important for a literate citizen. So why do we have this component? Another reason is that it models historical thinking skills. And so Weinberg, who founded the Stanford History Education Group, said, if teachers want students to think like a historian, they have to show them what it looks like. So when we give students meaty sources and then model that historical thinking, we're giving them opportunity. Thumbs up if we're finished with the video. Liam, you shook your head no. How many more seconds do you need?
I had like 20 seconds.
I'm good. I got almost all of it, just didn't quite finish it. I'm fine.
All right. Tanisha, you want me to move on to the next slide?
Yep.
All right, yeah, if you have 30 more seconds, y'all can finish it during lunch or later.
All right, so we're gonna just take a couple minutes. One or two people, does anyone want to answer the question? What are ways the guiding principles live in the